Welcome back to Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net on this Income Tax Day edition. Senator Dan, taxed enough already. Senator Duffy, you were talking before we went to the break about solutions. What are some solutions that are going to be palatable for everybody moving forward?
Well, some of the things that we should do right away, which I think are the easier ones, such as eliminate double dipping. Right now in the state of Illinois, there's many people receive more than one state pension. We can't afford that. We shouldn't be doing that. People should have to pick one state pension and go with it. Another thing we should do is we need to eliminate or drastically reduce the COLAs, the cost of living adjustment. People on state pensions, and there's 5 state pension systems, receive a 3% raise every year from the time they retire to the time they die. So in what other industry and at what other company do you give out raises to people that have left your company until the day that they die?
Now let me ask you.
That's a big example of what went wrong in this thing when in 1970, they put a clause in the Constitution that you can't reduce the pensions. It's a one-sentence thing, and how they get it to be so absolute is another big legal question. And I think Madigan and his ilk are trying to lean on that phrase that they can't really do anything. I'll call it only baloney, but it's worse, smells worse than nice fresh baloney to me. They're just dodging their duty to handle this thing. And they aren't going to do it if they think that the Constitution says you can't lower it. Because all of these remedies that have been talked about by the fancy business groups downtown and some of the newspapers, they involve correcting the new people coming into the thing, and they aren't doing anything about these $200,000 a year, $300,000, $400,000 a year pensions that are spread through. $200,000 is quite common in school districts.
Which brings up another point, and that's one of the solutions, is capping pensions.
Yes.
You know, and it's been suggested to cap pensions anywhere from $100,000 to $120,000.
Cap the pensions of the people that are receiving them. Think of this.
Right.
You got 860 school districts in the state of Illinois. Everyone's got a superintendent and some officer, assistant that handles the finances. They got principals. These dudes at the top of the education system are the ones that are really wrecking it for the teachers and for the taxpayers.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and so you've got a superintendent making $200,000 a year.
Right.
You're overpaying a stuffed shirt. This is not a businessman. He doesn't even have a sales manager. So you're paying him $200,000 a year, and he retires at age 55. That guy never did any heavy lifting. He's going to live to 85, we'll say. That means there's 6 of them on retirement at $200,000 a year, going up 3% a year and more.
Right.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So you've got one guy on the job, and you've got 6 of them that are off the job, all being paid the same price as the guy that's on the job.
Right.
And you got them for multiple people from each of 860 districts. For God's sakes, no wonder they're bankrupt.
But see, and there's people that agree with me. Now, when people talk, these are all, I think, logical reforms to pensions. When I meet with teachers all the time, and I love to talk with them. I love to sit down and discuss with them. Teachers, I think, really can understand this. But see, the union bosses won't allow them to support those type of changes. It won't impact the teachers. 80% of the people in these pension programs won't be impacted by these changes, other than the COLAs. They won't be impacted by these changes. But capping pensions are going to impact the highest level union bosses. So therefore, they're telling their people to be opposed to these changes.
Well, it's the big power brokers that are going to be affected. There is this fact,
though, even the teachers that are not getting $200,000 or $100,000 payments, they're getting a fat pension that comes on at age 55. The average teacher's pension approaches $60,000 a year. The average Social Security pension is about $14,000. There's nobody on Social Security, getting $60,000 a year pensions. So the pensions for even the teachers are extraordinarily high for what is a short time of years. They're off at 55. Listen, everybody's living too long. We got to get a law against living this long, or else the pension system's going to hell.
Well, I want to clarify something regarding that specific law. It doesn't specifically mention pensions. It refers to Illinois contracts cannot be impaired or diminished. But what about a contract that you can't possibly see what's going to be out 10, 20, 30 years? How can you put a COLA out there? How can you say that these investments are going to bring in 8.6%?
Listen, you don't have to even go as far as you're going, but it's a simple rule of law that there has to be a meeting of the minds on any contract. And, you know, when they start talking about constitutional stuff, they always say, well, what was in the minds of the founders when they passed this? And the Supreme Court says, well, they didn't mean this foolish stuff we got now. They meant sensible thing. Well, they passed stuff in 1970 and put it in the Constitution that you can't reduce these pensions. If we had that thing running now, we would have now a surplus in the pension account.
But you can reduce the pensions. I mean, that's been looked at, that's been analyzed by law firms. I mean, you know, we have to challenge that. That's been used as an excuse so that we don't modify or reform pensions.
Even the business groups downtown, those fellas are not doing anything about these outrageous pensions that are breaking the back of the state right now. You know, it used to be that the taxes went to the blind, the aged, and the disabled, and so forth. Well, that whole segment of it is standing there with people laying there in beds and so forth with unpaid bills for contractors to the state. And Madigan, what, last year, $3.7 billion issuance of bonds, not to pay the bills for the people who are in beds, people that can't help themselves. No, it's to pay these outrageous pensions. What's the matter with Mr. Madigan?